On a shocking night for global politics, President Donald Trump announced that the United States military had carried out what he calls one of the most powerful operations in American history, a lightning raid in the heart of Venezuela to capture Nicolás Maduro. According to Trump, this was a spectacular display of U.S. air, land, and sea power on a scale, he says, the world has not. Late last night and into the early morning, Trump says U.S. forces launched an extraordinary assault on a heavily fortified military compound in Caracas, Venezuela's capital. The goal was simple but dramatic: capture President Nicolás Maduro, whom Trump repeatedly describes as an outlawed dictator and a central figure in deadly narco-terrorism. Trump claims that American forces, working closely with U.S. law enforcement agencies, penetrated the compound under cover of darkness. He says the lights in Caracas were intentionally cut using U.S. expertise, turning the city into a battlefield lit only by explosions and night vision optics. In this version of events, Maduro and his wife Celia Flores were seized before they could reach their reinforced safe room and are now headed to face U.S. justice. One of the most striking claims Trump makes is that the entire operation ended without a single American killed and without any U.S. equipment lost. He talks about many helicopters, many planes, many people taking part, yet insists that every aircraft, every vehicle, and every soldier returned safely. Trump uses this to argue that the U.S. military is not just strong, but uniquely competent, far ahead of any other country in technology, planning, and execution. He contrasts this mission with past failures like botched raids in Afghanistan or the infamous Desert One disaster during the Carter era, arguing that under his leadership, America is respected again and no longer embarrassed on the world stage. To make the operation sound even bigger, Trump links it to a broader pattern of perfect wins. He name-checks earlier missions: the killing of Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani, the raid that killed ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and a shadowy attack on Iranian nuclear facilities that he refers to as Operation Midnight Hammer. In Trump's telling, these actions are part of a single strategy: use overwhelming, precise force to decapitate hostile regimes and terror networks without getting trapped in endless ground wars. He argues that without Midnight Hammer, there would be no peace in the Middle East today, and that the same kind of decisive thinking is now being applied to Venezuela. Whether you agree with that or not, it shows how the White House wants this operation to be seen not as a one-off raid, but as the latest chapter in a story of American dominance. Trump repeatedly connects Maduro to the flow of cocaine and other drugs into the United States. He claims that a large share of narcotics arriving by sea originate in or pass through Venezuela, and boasts that U.S. naval forces have already stopped about 97% of seaborne drug traffic. Each intercepted boat, he says, represents tens of thousands of lives saved from drug overdoses and cartel violence. Then comes one of the most controversial lines. Trump says the United States will run the country of Venezuela until there can be a safe, proper, and judicious transition. He argues that simply removing Maduro and walking away would risk another hostile regime taking power, repeating past mistakes in other parts of the world. Critics are likely to hear this as a declaration of long-term U.S. control, while supporters may see it as a guarantee that Venezuela will not slide back into chaos or dictatorship. During a question-and-answer session, Trump and his officials offer a few more vivid details about how the raid allegedly unfolded. They describe Maduro trying to reach a secure steel-reinforced safe room, only to be blocked by U.S. forces moving faster than expected. According to Trump, there was a lot of opposition and heavy gunfire, but U.S. troops cut through it so quickly that Maduro never managed to seal the door. Trump even repeats a military estimate that if Maduro had made it fully inside, the blast-breaching teams could have blown the vault-style door open in around 47 seconds. It is a made-for-TV detail, meant to underline both the danger and the confidence of the American plan. At the same time, officials stress that this was legally framed as an arrest of indicted fugitives, with the Department of War supporting the Department of Justice. One of the big political questions is, why wasn't Congress notified in advance? When asked, a senior official explains that this was a trigger-based mission where conditions were checked night after night, and the green light could only be given at the last minute. In their view, there was no practical way to brief lawmakers without increasing the risk that the operation would leak and fail. Trump then adds his own blunt explanation. Congress has a tendency to leak. He suggests that if some members had known, enemies in Venezuela might also have known, and the outcome could have been very different. Supporters will see this as hard-headed realism. Critics will see it as another example of Trump sidelining Congress in decisions of war and peace. At one point, a reporter asks whether America's mixed record in removing dictators like in Iraq or Libya gave Trump pause. He answers that those failures belonged to different presidents under him. He insists the record has been perfect, pointing again to Soleimani, A.L., Baghdadi, Midnight Hammer, and now Maduro. This fits a familiar pattern. Trump always frames his foreign policy as a series of clear wins, where enemies are eliminated quickly and American casualties are minimized. In his narrative, there is no gray zone, no messy occupation, no unclear outcome, only victories that prove America is back on top. Whether the situation in Venezuela will actually unfold that cleanly is a question that only time can answer. So what comes next? Trump says Maduro will ultimately be brought to New York to face charges in U.S. federal court, but leaves the details of where he will be held to Justice Department officials. The charges involve narco-terrorism and drug trafficking targeting the United States and its citizens, which means potential penalties are extremely severe. Inside Venezuela, the future is far less clear. Trump promises a judicious transition and repeats that the U.S. does not want another hostile government taking over. That raises big questions. Who will actually run day-to-day operations? Will there be new elections? How will other countries, especially in Latin America, react to Washington effectively toppling a sitting president and declaring it will manage the country for a time? Those are the unresolved issues that could turn a clean military success into a long political struggle. In the end, this operation, at least as described by Trump, sends three messages at once. First, to Venezuela's former leadership, the United States is willing to reach deep into enemy territory to seize those it accuses of drug-fueled terrorism. Second, to drug cartels and their allies, U.S. forces are watching, and safe havens may not be safe forever. Third, to the rest of the world. Under Trump, America prefers fast, overwhelming raids and legal arrests over slow-moving wars with thousands of boots on the ground. Whether history sees this as a brilliant surgical strike or the start of a risky new chapter in Venezuela will depend on what happens in the weeks and months ahead. For now, Trump is celebrating it as one more proof that, in his words, we win a lot, and this time, he believes the whole world saw it.